Okay, hi there. My name's Emma. I just jumped in front of the camera quickly on the request of a lady who I know called Carly, who wanted me to put a video up that relates to the Positive Ways Pragmatic planning booklet that I published in a post about a week, 10 days ago. So I'm going to be talking about the content of that and also some of the activities that are in there. And I apologise in advance. I just attempted to feed my cat so that they would leave me alone for a few minutes, but it is highly likely that one or several of the 8 cats that I currently have living in my home are going to start scratching at things and coming in front of the screen, so it's been a little bit distracting, but bear with me because I've just come on quickly to do this, so it's completely unplanned, unscripted, and I'm going to attempt to be my usual self without too many ums and ahs, if possible. I'm quite new to doing video recordings. So yeah, just bear with me, you get what you get, and that's it, and hopefully it might be of use to somebody. So the booklet that I'm about to talk about actually came about in a class that I have been running sort of back to back several times this year, and we teach a really wide range of groups of people. This particular groups that I really enjoy teaching are groups of women, normally single mothers who, for obvious reasons, have had to be out of work for a little while, and they are now ready to kind of go back into work. Their children have got started school and that sort of thing, and they are actually highly motivated and enthusiastic groups of people, and that's why I love working with them, because we, you know, in the work that we do, it's always much more successful when people come along to the classes and they they want to be there, rather than feeling that they should be there for some reason. So that's a really nice part of the work that we're doing. So those programs are largely based on the psychological approach that Keith Abrahams and I have created, called Dynamic Experiential Narrative Theory. Now, DENT for short. Now, don't let that long name put you off. I won't go into great detail about it now, but in short, in a nutshell, it's around the fact that if we can acknowledge that our lives, our environment, everything around us, other people, is always in a constant state of flux, everything's always changing, that's the dynamic part, then it's much more easy for us to kind of understand that you know, going with the flow of things and adapting to change is far easier than, you know, resisting things happening. And then the experiential bit is all about the fact that we're focusing in on our own personal experience of life. You know, the experience that we can pass on to others through peer work, whether we're peer mentoring, peer coaching, or peer listening, or whatever it is. When we are able to draw on our own lived experience, and then the next part, the narrative part, tell a story about our lives and our situations and our aspirations and everything that's healthy for us, but also congruent with what we actually want for ourselves and in our lives, and congruent with the sorts of people that we want to be, then things generally flow much more smoothly for us, and we also have greater health across the board. and we focus on 5 domains of life, which are the physical, the emotional, the psychological, the social, and the spiritual. So we're covering the whole thing. We take an holistic approach to the whole person, rather than just splitting off bits of the mind and body to deal with those. So what actually happened in this particular group was that one lady brought up the fact that she struggled during the winter, and that her doctor had suggested that maybe she had something which they call seasonal affective disorder, or SAD for short. And the notion being that there's some kind of disorder that happens to some people during the winter time that makes them depressed, but only usually in the winter. Now, as most people who know me will understand and know about me, I'm not very keen on labels like that. They certainly don't enable us to always tell a helpful and healthy story about our lives if we have a belief that it's something that is outside of us that we can't do anything about. Labels, diagnoses have been questioned to the extent that I'm a member of the British Psychological Society, and we are now no longer allowed to write the diagnostic categories in our work. We have to use other terminology, for example, low mood, or seeing things that others don't, those sorts of things. So rather than use the labels, because all the research is showing us now is that although we may experience those low moods or high moods, or feeling anxious, or other sorts of things, it's not actually accurate to kind of put them into a box and say, right, that over there is confined into that space and compartmentalised, and it's definitely this, with these, this and this and this and this symptoms that you will experience. And a lot of the research is now showing us that the story that there's a gene or a chemical or a malfunction in the brain or something that's causing these things is actually inaccurate. The evidence isn't backing that up anymore. So my first response around these things, when people will say to me, it's true, I do feel very low and I feel very slow at winter time, then I will usually go back to a part of psychology that explains what's going on. And actually evolutionary psychology is very useful for looking at why things have developed in humans in the way that they have. So the booklet, it starts off by talking about, we've come to this time of year when quite often people say, right, it's New Year, I'm going to change everything in New Year, it's a new start, I'm going to quit all those bad habits, and then I'm going to be super healthy, and I'm going to run every day and go to the gym, and I'm going to lose 4 stone, and get very kind of into the kind of new year, new you thing, and being a new decade as well. At the moment, that's quite an attractive proposition. But at the same time, we've got Christmas coming up as well for many of us in our culture, and it's right in the middle of winter. So for many people, it's not always that kind of jolly, joyful experience that you know, the Coca-Cola adverts describe for us. And so for a lot of reasons, the winter can be very, very stressful. You know, we're suddenly thrust in with family members who we haven't seen for months and months since last Christmas, and we don't really want to be stuck in a room with them. Lots of pressures, particularly those of us who have children, you know, want the newest pair of trainers, they want the new games console, they want the latest iPhone, you know, all of those things. There's a huge amount of pressure as parents to, you know, live up to those expectations. But so in terms of our energy levels though, they might be quite low. And I sort of say at this time of year we're low and slow. And from an evolutionary perspective, actually, this is perfectly normal. There's a perfectly good reason why we should be like this at this time of year. So clearly, there's very little daylight at this time of year. So if you go back, our bodies haven't actually changed for 10,000 years. So the human body is essentially the same human body as would have been on a human 10,000 years ago. So nothing's essentially changed in that period of time. Evolution's a very long and slow process. However, our culture has changed dramatically, particularly in Western society. You know, our technology and everything else has you know, rushed past much more quickly than our bodies have the chance to catch up with. So what would have actually happened, you know, all those 10,000 years ago, when we lived in our caves, you know, metaphorically or actually, we would have now been coming up to a period of time where we are potentially food's going to be very, very scarce. So we would have stored up all of the food that we'd gathered from the last harvest towards the end of October, and then we will need to live off that all across the winter months, because there's not going to be any food. So you know, until the springtime comes. So for that reason, we are going to have to conserve energy, which means we're not going to want to be running about. We're going to be wanting to slow our whole system down. We're also going to be wanting to huddle together in groups to keep warm. And during that period of time, a lot of our kind of functions like our libido would reduce, because, you know, getting pregnant during the winter months and having to feed, you know, eat for two is not something you want to be doing when there's scarcity of food. So, you know, it begins to make sense that we're going to want to, you know, that we're going to want to perhaps stay in our pajamas in the warm. It's very dark early. So, you know, in our ancestors' times, there would have been more predators around. You know, so all of a sudden, this story becomes something far, far different to the one that, oh, I have a disorder, which is an illness, and I can't help it, and I need to take a tablet for it. It's just not true. So yeah, that's the first thing. But then, you know, in the workbook, we're going to say, well, what else might we have done at the winter? Well, it's a perfect time to reflect. Okay, so we're not out taking action and running about and looking for our food and everything else. We're actually, you know, we've got slow, we're calm, you know, it's quiet. So this period of time is a perfect time for us to reflect and go inwards. And that's kind of what we're supposed to be doing, so reflecting. So in terms of how we can make use of that during, in our current, in our contemporary lives, well, now is a really good time for us to look back over the previous year and evaluate, re-evaluate. It's all the re's. We're renewing, we're re-evaluating, we're reflecting, and having a think about, what's happened over the last year, how we're feeling right now about how things have turned out this year, what went well, what didn't go so well, what lessons can I learn, are there things I just want to, I need to let go of now in order to move forwards. So we're going to want to know the things that we need to let go of in order that we are not going to take them with us into the next phase, the next stage, as in the next year or the next 12 months. And quite often, if we don't do some conscious reflecting, what happens is we go from year to year, we get to December and New Year's Eve, and we've had a few, not me, because I haven't had a drink for nearly 10 years, but we sit there and go, oh, it's been another crap year, and it's not going to be like that this year, because tomorrow on the 1st of January I'm going to do all of my 10 huge New Year's resolutions and my whole life's going to change, and the trouble is, if we haven't reflected properly and understood why this year didn't work quite as we wanted it to, the chances are in 12 months' time we're going to say, well, I don't know how that happened, I did it again, it's happened again, and it always happens to me, it's always the same, da 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 da. Well, if we were able to reflect adequately and work out what it is that didn't work last year, then the chances are that we're going to be able to consciously decide that we're not going to repeat that, and consciously decide what we are going to do instead, because we don't want to talk in negatives. Brain doesn't work like that. If we say, I'm not going to eat chocolate every day next year, I don't want to eat chocolate every day next year, well, your brain hears want to eat chocolate every day next year. Brain doesn't understand negatives, so we have to reframe everything in a positive way. When we're setting goals, we want to be saying things like, I'm going to eat an apple every day for my snack, and once a week I'll have chocolate on a Sunday, or something like that. It's got to be framed in the positive. So we'll come back to the goals later, but so it is a good time to reflect. It is a good time to set goals, but not necessarily because it's New Year. In fact, the change happens for us at the winter solstice, and there's nothing woo-woo about this. Okay, the winter solstice is the shortest day. It's a symbolic occasion because from the summer solstice to the winter solstice, we've been in decline. Okay, we've been slowing down. It's been going down. We might have been going down in energy, down. As it comes into the darkness. Winter solstice is the shortest day. It's the darkest day. But from that point onwards, we're on the incline again up to the summer solstice. So the light's coming back. Literally, the light's coming back, and that's why it's a perfect time, symbolically and energetically, to discard what we don't want from our lives and our experience, and start to envisage what it is that we do want for our lives. Because what then happens is, as the sun comes back, our energy comes back, our mood comes back, and everything starts to lift and it gets brighter and lighter. And the winter solstice time, it's the time to sow. We're sowing the seeds. Okay, we're sowing the seeds for the next stage. Actually, the next kind of significant festival happens at the beginning of February. Just when the snowdrops are coming up. We know that life is buzzing away just underneath the surface, okay? And then we've got up to Easter and up to Beltane, the first day of summer. Everything's blooming and everything's fertile and everything's coming to fruition. So it makes perfect sense. So I'm not a great fan of the kind of New Year's resolution tradition. I tend to do exactly what I just suggested to you. When it comes to the shortest day, I will absolutely be, I've already started over the last couple of weeks. I've been reflecting, I've been making notes. I'm pretty nerdy like this, but I do it properly. And we do this in our business as well. We look back at what hasn't worked, what we've learned from it, and understanding that, okay, well, that didn't work, so we're not going to repeat that. And then we're going to start looking at what has worked and things that we want to build on, because there might be things you want to retain. You might want to keep some things to build on and move, as well as try some new things, some different things, to get a bit of freshness in there. So that's kind of covered, the reflection part of it, and starting to talk about the what we call, setting intentions. Really, you can call them goals, intentions, whatever. I prefer the word intention because it has much more of a direction, a directional connotation for me. If I intend to do something, I'm going to keep doing it until it's done. That's my work ethic. And sometimes we might not have much of an idea about what we actually want to create next year. We might be someone's like, I don't know, goals. I don't know what I want. But we might feel like we want to do it. If you don't want to bother setting goals, then you won't be watching this video or doing this workbook. But if you're not really sure, but you want to do something, a good place to start is to have a look at our essential human needs. So we all have a set of essential needs that must be met in order for us to kind of feel okay. What we know from the research is that there are certain needs that, when they aren't being met, is when we start to suffer and struggle. And it might start off, a bit of a niggle, something's not quite right, but it might, it could develop. If the needs are unmet for long enough, it will develop into, feeling very low, probably feeling anxious, a lot of tension. It's very stressful. Some of these needs that we have, it's very stressful if they're not met. Things like the need for connection with other people. Things like the need for attention, both giving and receiving attention. The need to have purpose in life. Our model that we've created is a purposefulness model. We know that unless we have a purpose, we're always going to feel wanting. We're always going to feel like there's something missing. So you'll find in the booklet here, I'm going to put a link to a page where you can sign up and download this workbook. It's a 10-page workbook with all this information in it. If you don't do that, hopefully this this video will be a good introduction for you. So I said earlier about the 5 domains of I never know which way to do this. it's back to front. The 5 domains of a healthy life, and there they are, okay? And within each of these 5 domains, there are 3 essential needs, okay? So the physical domain, we have our physiological needs. That is really anything that pertains to your physical body and enables you to survive, your eating, your sleeping, your sex, your exercise, those sorts of things. Then we have the security need, which is the sense that we feel safe in our environment so that we can develop. And that can relate to any and all of your environments, your home, your work, your study. Then the next one is community. We need to feel like we are part of a community, because being part of a wider community supports a healthy mindset and it enables us to connect with others. Now, what we also know from research is that, and sadly I haven't really got time in this video to give you all the citations, but they are there, so ask me if you want some further reading, fellow nerds out there. We know it's like a nutrient connection. You know, you may have heard about the news of, or the stories of, you know, the elderly when they live on their own. You know, they go into very quick demise. There was the orphanages all those years ago in the 80s, I think, I remember from the news, when, you know, they were left and they had no cuddles and they had no connection with others. They were still given their food and their water, but a lot of them didn't make it, and that was because they didn't have connection. So in the emotional domain, we have a need for emotional connection with at least one other person, where we can just be ourselves and we're not judged. You know, we can just be hanging all out there, and they're not going to point a finger and say you shouldn't be thinking that. We've got to have one other person where we can do that venting, and they're just going to be there for us. So then the 2 attention needs, and they are fascinating. I could do a whole video on this, but giving and receiving attention in equal measure. And the interesting thing about the attention needs is that they are met even if the attention is unhealthy. So it's really, it's really good to be aware of this in our relationships, because, you know, sometimes people might wonder why we hang on to abusive and destructive relationships. Well, you know, any attention is attention, and it's very hard to give that up if we fear that we might not get it elsewhere. So in the psychological domain, we have growth, and humans have a need for continuous growth and learning, whether that's through professional development or personal development. Either way, we have that need for growth. We also, reflection is another one. We need private time where we can reflect, but also self-talk is another one. We need to make sure that we are telling an empowering story about ourselves, to ourselves and to other people. So if we're going to reflect, if we're going to have that reflection time and we're going to say, oh, you shouldn't have done that, you're rubbish, you're stupid, and beating ourselves up, then that's not going to be healthy for us. So we have to learn how to talk to ourselves about ourselves in a healthy way. So the social domain is where we take action kind of out in the world. And the first one is autonomy. So it's different to independence. We need to feel that we have volition in our lives and the ability to make our own decisions. But equally, you know, it's about finding that balance between independence and dependence, but towards a healthy interdependence. So that's a lot of what we're about is, we tend to move from dependence to independence, and then the healthy step is to move towards interdependence, where we can have healthy relationships with others that are supportive. We do need other human beings to support us. We can't generally do everything all on our own. Also, esteem is another one. We need to feel valued, both by ourselves and by others in our community. Competence is another one. We need to feel that there's something that we're good at and gives us a sense of achievement, because that is motivating. In other work that I do, we talk a lot about addictions, and actually addictions are just the motivation circuitry gone awry. That's all. And you know, because they set off the reward centres in the brain that are the same reward centres that happen when we feel a sense of achievement. Okay. So then we have the fifth domain, which we call pragmatic spirituality. And we call it pragmatic spirituality because we have come up with three essential needs that are universal to everybody within this domain. So the spiritual domain here does not require you to have a belief in something, okay, because that's not universal. We all have different beliefs. You know, some of us have a religion, some of us follow a spiritual tradition of some sort, but this isn't what we're about. We're about extracting the universal features of things. So the three essential needs here are to feel that we have meaning in our lives. Does life make good sense to you? Yeah. Then the next one is purpose. So we need to feel that we have something that drives us, something kind of greater purpose, or greater than ourselves, that drives us and kind of gives form to the sense of meaning. And then the final one is service. Maslow calls this transcendence, but it's about transcending like the human ego, really. Being of service helps us to fulfill our meaning and purpose, but it also gives us that focus outside of ourselves towards other people. And a lot of the 12-step recovery, well, all of the 12-step recovery programs, for example, you know, have service at their basis. We know that if we get our head out of our own arse and focus on somebody else, we start to feel better, funnily enough. So those are the needs. So you can start there. Conscious that it's now half an hour. So I'm going to whiz through the workbook section and also see if I can shut the door of those cats. Nothing like homemade video, hey? So here we have the first page of the workbook. I'm not sure if you can see that at all, but it's similar to what the questions that I was talking about earlier. So you're going to write down, the first step is a general overview about what is your overall feeling about the last 12 months. How has the last 12 months been for me? That's just an overall feeling. You know, oh, actually, you know what, it's been a really joyful year this year. I've connected with lots of people. Or actually, it's been real tough. Yeah, I feel like I've been powering through treacle. Yeah, okay. Then the second question is to pick out what went really well last year. What are the things that stand out in your mind as being particularly great? So I've suggested that you list at least 5, okay? And I say at least 5 because we can go into that kind of, everything was crap, right? But I really want you to think about the thing that some things that went well, you know, and it could be really tiny things, you know, that you can recall. I had a really lovely week in Cornwall with my sons in October. My eldest son did really well at his GCSEs and I felt very, very proud. You know, things like that. So, or it could even be, you know, if you've had a really, really tough year, it could even be, you know what, I've managed to get out of bed and go to work every single day, even though I felt really fatigued, or, you know, and I haven't had many days off sick, or, you know, something like that. It all depends what kind of year you've had, but, you know, the level that you're at the moment. So then the third one is, what didn't go so well? So we need to have an understanding, like I said earlier, what didn't go so well? What could I have done differently or better. So you're going to find those things that didn't go so well, and then you're going to add an extra bit on and say, how could I have done that differently or better? Because we're always going to be focused on solutions. Remember I said we're always going to be focused forwards. Sometimes there are things that happen to us where we simply just have to roll with the emotion of it for a while, yeah? Sort of process it, process the emotions. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be so much doing, but it could be that we simply have to get calm and process something. So, but then we can, we start to ask ourselves about some of the other things. What could I have done differently or better? And the fourth question is, over the past year, what lessons have I learned that are beneficial for me to note going forwards into 2020? So you might want to look at lessons about yourself, your life, your relationships, your work, your health, or anything else that comes to mind. But we're always searching for what have I learned. So if something, even we can learn from the things that went well, okay, because it might have been something new. It might have been you tried a new routine, which your whole life you've gone, oh, I'm not going to do a routine like that, and then you actually try it and it works all right. So you've learned that sometimes you don't want to listen to your own bullshit, yeah. So we're going to do that. Then the fifth question is, you're going to so on here there's two boxes. You've got two columns. One is, so if you've got a piece of paper, you've got a column for let go or leave behind, and then another column for create more or bring it with you. So you're going to make a list of all the things that you would like to leave behind and let go of from 2019. They're like, nah, I'm not going to do that again. I've tried that didn't work for me, right? And then, but it also could be, maybe we've had a relationship breakdown this year. Maybe we're just like, no more. That's it. I have to put that down. I have to leave that alone. I'm not taking it with me. And then on the other side, we want to have a look at what do I want to bring with me? So if something worked really well, what do I want to bring with me? It could be a newfound pleasure that you have. I've discovered that I quite like marketing. Well, some parts of it, I like writing blogs and stuff like that. So I'm going to do more of that. But also, maybe it's thinking about the new things that you want to create too. So then the next bit is about your intentions. So I'm just going to try and whiz through this. The first question is, imagine yourself reflecting on 2020 in a year's time, and then ask yourself this question: how do I want 2020 to feel? So you're putting yourself in the future, and we do a lot of work about the imagination. It's our absolute most valuable innate resource that we have, okay? I could do a whole week talking about the imagination on its own, but believe me, you want to start to mobilise your imagination, okay? So, for example, do you want your year to be calm? Do you want it to be productive? Do you want it to be adventurous or fun? Or just simple, quiet, peaceful, Or sometimes, people find it really valuable to choose a year which is going to be, a measure for them. So just one word for the year. For example, so what happens then? I've chosen a word for 2020. It's community, because what happens is, without realising, we prime the brain. Okay, we prime our mind and our brain to notice things that relate to that thing. So even if we forget it, even if you forget your word, okay, you can do all sorts of fancy creative things with it. You can make pictures and vision boards and all that sort of thing, or just stick it on the fridge or whatever. But a thing happens in our mind called priming, which is where whether we actually consciously recall this word every day or not, we will have kind of set that intention in our mind that that's the word, and we start to notice things that relate to it. but also it gives us a sense of, we can then ask ourselves questions about the decisions that we make throughout the year. So for example, if you wanted a calm year, yeah, you are then more likely to want to choose a holiday which is, you know, in a quiet location, out of season, calmly sitting by the sea, than, you know, deciding to climb Everest or something like that, you know. So you're going to start to make decisions that that fit with that word of the year. So you can use it as a measure, you know, okay, I want this year to be calm. If I make this decision, is that going to be congruent with my wish to be calm? Okay, see what I mean? So number 2 is, what new things can I do, begin or bring into next year which will help me to create the feeling or feelings I have chosen for next year? So again, if you've got your word, or you know how you want to feel by the end of 2020, what are you actually going to do? What sort of things can you do, you know, to bring that in? So for example, if you want an adventurous year, then you might decide that you want to go, you know, backpacking in the Himalayas. You might want to decide that you are going to travel the Camino de Santiago, you know, the pilgrimage in Spain. You might decide that you're going to go to Borneo, to the forests and all that sort of thing. So you've got to choose things that are congruent with that. So what can you do or begin or bring which will help you to create that? So number 3 is a magic wand question. It's nothing new, I didn't make this up, but it's a great question. It's, if I could wave a magic wand and have my year be everything that I'd like it to be, what would I do, be, have, achieve or create in 2020? So this is where you have to use your imagination. You're going to see yourself being, doing, having, achieving, creating whatever it is that would, you feel would be the thing, you know, the thing that you'd love for 2020. So it's best to describe that in real detail. You can tell a story. So I often do an exercise with people where they imagine that they're there in that thing, and then they write down or describe the story of how they got there. Yeah, just make it very clear. And then number 4 is, based on your answers to these questions, now write yourself a list of intentions for 2020. You can break them down into smaller goals and tasks. In the future, you know, for the future you can have, they might be global, quite fairly large goals, intentions, and then you want to break them down into smaller chunks. But you can start off there and have as many as you want, you know, and it might be, or as few as you want. You know, if you have a really huge thing, then you know, you might just want one thing and just break that down into smaller chunks throughout the year. And there are lots of other activities that I could show you, that we could give you, that we do in our classes, particularly sort of in the first 3 months of next year, that can help you with that. So then on here is a nice page. This is going back to the needs. There's a nice chart there where you can very clearly, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself where you feel you are with those needs. Okay, the needs that we spoke about. And on here, where I showed you earlier, there's a bit more of an in-depth description down here about what the needs actually are, what they need. Okay, so you can go back to that, colour that, or you can colour it in. There's all instructions in here, and then on here there's just a little table that lists all of the needs there with a little box. So you write in the little box the number that you rated yourself at, and then you write a little description, a little sentence there of why you rated yourself at that level from 1 to 10, and one thing that you could do to change or improve that need. Obviously, some of those needs might be well met, so you might just want to pick 1 or 2 or 3. So then we always say, obviously this booklet's called the 4 steps to lasting and consistent change. So we never want to do something that's just, I'll set some goals and then I'll leave it. Here we've got, you're going to work out what your needs are, how well your needs have been met this year, is 1 step. You're going to reflect on the whole year, that's another step. You're going to set your intentions for the year, that's another step. And the 4th step is to have accountability and support, okay? So, there may be things that you have, you may have had a year where you've not felt very supported by the people around you, and that's fine. Sometimes we change and other people don't, or other people change and we don't, or in the same way. Yeah. So we're all on our own kind of growth path, if you like. But really, having accountability is where it's crucial, and it's the bit that makes the difference between lasting change and just something being a flash in the pan. So people might set their outrageous resolutions on New Year's Eve when they've had a few, saying, I'm gonna stop drinking and I'm gonna stop smoking on the 1st of January. And then lo and behold, they're still at the party at 4 AM and they go, damn, it's the 1st of January, I'm still drinking and smoking. Oh, I've blown it now, I'll wait until next January. Okay, so see what I mean? It can be a bit of a flash in the pan, but it's accountability and support that's going to help you to achieve these things in your life. So there are lots of different ways we can find that. What's really, really interesting is that, there's this saying that's attributed to Jim Rohn, usually, but I'm sure, it's quite a general thing. It says you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, okay? And there's real truth in that. I only have to think about my own year, this year, and my 5 closest people compared to last year and my 5 closest people, and a bit further afield than that. But the people around me that I have in my inner circle right now are the ones who I've been the most happy with and the most felt the most supported by, and I have accountability. And the key is they don't always agree with everything that I say, okay? So quite often, if we've been in a bit of a kind of self-pity stage, we all have those friends that we know we can ring up and they will just validate our justifications for why everything's crap, yeah? And they'll help us and they'll encourage us to have a real good moan about something, right? Yeah, you're right, that's terrible, you should do, yeah, we all have that, yeah, we all know those people, okay? And this is not to say that we shouldn't ever vent, right? Because it's really crucial. Venting is part of the process of moving forwards towards a solution. We've got to get rid of that crap, yeah? But we don't stay in vent mode for 2 years, okay? We limit venting, we do it just enough for it to go, and then we have to let go of it, okay? There's no point going over and over and over and over the same ground. But sometimes we do have those people around us who will help us to hold on to that stuff for ages and ages and ages, and don't we love it, love it, being justified in our righteousness, So what we need really are people, the people in my life now are the people who I know are going to call me out on my bullshit, pardon the swearing, but it's true. They're going to call me out when I am trying to, you know, convince myself of avoiding something, or you know, whatever, or doing something that isn't me, or doing something that isn't congruent with my goals and aims in life. Yeah, they're going to call me out on that, and they're going to say, really, you know. So tell me, Emma, why exactly do you want to do that? Yeah. And then we're sort of going, yeah, well, I thought it was the easier way, and, you know, I just don't want to go that way because it's scary, you know. And then they will help me and support me through the scary thing, so I can do it. And good Lord, don't I feel a whole lot better than when I have avoided something, okay? So that's just an example. So, you know, you can find groups of people, you know, some that you may already have those people around you who, they share our high aspirations, they see our dreams, they see our ambitions, they see our goals, they see our intentions, and they're going to say, you know what, you know, you can do this, you can absolutely do this, you know, they're going to keep us to a high standard, and then they're going to help us to get through it, all right? Whatever it is, yeah. And they provide accountability. They go, yeah, well, you know, you said you were going to do that thing like 2 months ago. How are you getting on with that? Yeah, they're going to keep doing it. I've had it, seen it in, you know, we've got a couple of online groups at the moment. It's going on all the time. People will prod each other, yeah. And even though I tend to run most of the groups, they will prod me as well. If I put in my intentions on a Sunday, someone will prod me by Wednesday and go, I thought you were going to do that tomorrow. You know, I thought you were going to do that yesterday, yeah? And we need those people because, you know, I did something the other day, somebody prodded me, and I did it because they had taken the time and effort to hold me to account, to remind me, and to do it. Now, it was an essential thing. It wasn't an essential thing that I needed to do. It was another video similar to this, actually. I didn't have to do it, but I said I was going to do it. And actually, it was good for me. It's good for me to do it, to practice it. So she prodded me and said, oh, I thought you were going to post a video. You know, yes, actually, it was today. Yeah, it was the other, last week, the other Sunday. And I was like, oh, yeah, oh, God. You know, and I wanted to say, oh, I haven't got time now. And I was thinking, it's only going to be like 10 minutes, you know, and I was going to spend the next 2 hours cleaning or something. So I couldn't, you know, back out of it. I could have said, I don't have fancy enough video equipment. Well, I don't. I've got a webcam and a microphone and a, you know, an angle points lamp pointed at my face so that I'm not in the shadow the whole time, yeah? That's it. It'll do for now, yeah? So, you know, we want to make sure that we are bringing ourselves out of isolation, that we are connecting with other people. In business, some people do something that's called like a mastermind. We run peer communities of practice, which are, some of them are geared towards professional life, people who run their own businesses. Keith has an executive group on the corporate side of things. We have a group in the community for those who are training to be peer coaches, and we have our own group for that. So we both support each other. We also learn the skills and do the course at the same time. We share the skills in the group, and then everyone practices them, and they practice their peer mentoring on each other, and it's fabulous, you know. But there are all sorts of other things that you could do. You could join a meetup group on meetup.com. You could have a look at Facebook groups, see if there's any that vibe with you along there. You know, whatever it is. So, you know, and the other thing is, aside from supporting our intentions and making sure that we actually do the things that we want to with our lives, you know, this isn't about pleasing somebody else. This is about pleasing you. You only have one lifetime in this body, Yeah. You get to choose whatever you want to do with it. No, it doesn't matter what level you're at now, or what stage you're at now in your life, or whether you've been on the floor. Good God, I'll be 10 years sober in March. Okay, 10 years ago today, I didn't even know my own name. I hadn't left the house for weeks. I was about to miss Christmas, right? In the depths of alcoholism, and that served as a catalyst for me. I have 10 minutes of video footage of my sons on Christmas Day 10 years ago, okay, and that's all I know about it. So, you can come back, is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what level you're at, what stage you're at, where you are in your life, how awful it's been or how difficult it feels, right? You can do it, yeah? And it's accountability that's going to get you there. And it was absolutely accountability that got me sober, accountability and support in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, it's the one way that we can be supported but also support others, and then it's like a it's a virtuous circle. So and aside from supporting our intentions, it also fulfills some of our essential needs. Yeah. So the attention needs, the connection needs, the community, the esteem needs, the growth needs, service, meaning and purpose, probably because we're helping other people, and you're likely to meet lots of people who are interested in things. Now, I'm a bit of an introvert, so I'm not saying that you always have to be surrounded by lots and lots of people. It's about being balanced, but I need to balance that time with other people with that nice time on my own. But that's fine. So anyway, accountability. So there you have it. I'm going to put a link to this workbook. I wanted to make sure I kept this below an hour, because even if you've got this far, well done. But you might have got bored. So it's 57 and a half minutes at the moment, so I'm not going to carry on for much longer. I hope that some of that was useful for you. It was just a whistle-stop tour of little bits of the content that I thought of. As I say, it was unscripted, unplanned. I just sat down here and I just spoken at the camera. As much as I could. So that's kind of it, really. If you have any questions, just comment below in Facebook. Comment in Facebook. Give me a wave. I'm happy to speak to anyone, answer any questions, and that's it. There's no sales pitch, nothing. I just wanted to share something, and thank you, Carly, for holding me to account to this, a second one. Kirsten held me account to the first one, and to Lucy for inspiring inspiring me to pick up the pen and write it. So, in the first place. So, thank you very much. Have a nice evening or morning or day, whatever it is when you see this. Take care. Bye.